Abandoned under the rain, a paralyzed mother's incredible story of unexpected salvation revealed. The storm hammered down, turning the small Midwestern town into a gray blur, each droplet a potent reminder of Mary Thompson's stark reality. As she sat in her wheelchair by the window, the world outside felt distant, like a vibrant painting left to fade. At 38, she was once a spirited artist, full of passion, until an accident cruelly stripped her of her vitality. Now, paralyzed and struggling to keep up with a swelling pile of bills, she felt both trapped and willing to fight for her teenage son, Jake, whose dreams weighed heavily on her heart. Today was different. Tension crackled through the air. Jake rushed home, his backpack flapping against his thin frame. But the moment he stepped through the door, anxiety twisted in his gut. "Mom, I left my science project on the bus." The words clawed at Mary's insides. His scholarship depended on it. The future he envisioned as a doctor revolved around securing that opportunity. Her breath quickened. The thought of his disappointment spread like wildfire in her mind. Would he feel the crushing weight of their precarious situation? Would he see her as a failure? The urge to help him overwhelmed her. A desperate need to shield him from disappointment enveloped her like a fog. Without thinking, she grabbed the handles of her wheelchair. The rain was relentless, and the streets would be muddy, but Jake couldn't go through this alone, not when she could somehow lessen the burden. "I'll get it!" she shouted, even as a lump formed in her throat. It didn't matter that she would struggle. Her determination turned fragile hope into something fierce. As she propelled herself into the rain, wheels slipping over sodden ground, panic threatened to take hold. Each inch she traveled felt like climbing a mountain, the mud clinging to her wheels as if it were trying to pull her back. She fought it, gritting her teeth. Memories of her former life flickered through her mind. The soft strokes of her brush on canvas, the joy of creating art, the laughter that once filled their home. Was it too late to reclaim even a fraction of that? Could she reclaim some semblance of her identity, or was she truly a ghost in her own life? Just when despair began to trickle in, a figure emerged through the rain. Mr. Jenkins. His kindness radiated warmth as he rushed to her side. "Mary, what are you doing?" he exclaimed, pulling her from the muddy grasp of her chair. With each effort he made, she felt the flicker of support she hadn't realized she needed. "Let me help you," he insisted. As he helped to lift her chair free, a flicker of fear was replaced by a tentative hope, a reminder of who she once was, standing beside a gentle stranger who remembered her talent. "You still paint, don't you?" The question hung in the air. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening.
System. YouTube have been making changes of system, and many people are losing notifications the channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you not miss the next videos. If you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. Fear gripped her tightly again. What if she allowed the brush to dance across the canvas one more time, only to face rejection? The thought froze her in place. But as realization dawned, it carried the weight of possibility. Mrs. Thompson, the artist, lay dormant inside her, and perhaps this was her moment to awaken. Jake watched from the doorway, heart racing in sync with the raindrops, a thunderstorm raging both inside and out. As he witnessed his mother, a spark ignited in him. Maybe together they could confront their fears. Perhaps Mary would find a path, but darkness loomed. The shadows of their past would soon unravel, and with them turmoil that could shatter everything they were trying to rebuild. Each drop of rain echoed the uncertainty that dripped into their lives, stinging at the corner of their fragile hope. Their stories entwined like lives caught in the storm, longing for salvation, but fearing the cost it might demand. Mr. Jenkins' face was a mixture of concern and encouragement, his hands steadying her chair as she braved the storm both physically and emotionally. "You shouldn't face this alone, Mary. You have a talent that deserves to see the light again." His belief in her talent struck a chord deep within, awakening a feeling long buried under layers of self-doubt and despair. The truth was, she missed painting. It was a language she once spoke fluently, one that spoke of her innermost thoughts and emotions. As the downpour lost its intensity, she felt an unexpected clarity washing over her. Could she really step back into that world? A world where she had the power to create? The very thought sent a ripple of excitement through her, yet she hesitated, weighing the cost against the risk. What if she failed? What if her art mattered little to others? "Maybe," I began tentatively, her voice trembling as if afraid the wind might carry her words away. "Maybe you can," he echoed, his eyes shining with the brightness of his conviction. It was a small affirmation, but it unlocked something inside her. Mary took a deep breath, the damp air filling her lungs, and suddenly the world felt wider than just the confines of her wheelchair. "I want to paint again," she said, the words surprising even herself. They held the promise of something greater, a potential resurgence of a piece of her identity she thought had been suffocated in silence. "You should start with what you love," Mr. Jenkins suggested, his tone gentle yet passionate.
She would have to confront the very essence de herself, un challenge that could either secure her rebirth or plunge her deeper into despair. In the dim light of the waning storm, Mary whispered to herself, "It's now or never." Mary awoke the next morning, the light streaming through her window like a soft embrace. For the first time in years, she felt an inkling of purpose as she glanced at the empty wall that awaited her artistic touch. The remnants of her fear still lurked within her, unfamiliar yet achingly familiar, but she was determined to confront them. She moved through her morning routine with an energy that mingled excitement with apprehension. Each movement was imbued with a purpose that brought her closer to reclaiming her identity as an artist. Jake had left for school, but his enthusiasm lingered in the quiet of the house, tugging at her spirit. Encouraged by Mr. Jenkins' words and her son's spark, she decided to begin what she once thought impossible. In the garage, her old easel stood like a forgotten sentinel. She approached it warily, running her fingertips over the dusty surface.
Memories flooded in, brushes dancing across canvas, colors blending under her command, each stroke a release of emotion. Would she still have the same control? Her heart raced as she pulled out her supplies, a sense of urgency anchoring her thoughts. With her canvas positioned and the first brush in her hand, hesitation surged. Could she recapture the intensity of her past? She shook her head, pushing the negativity aside. Perhaps she didn't have to achieve perfection. Maybe creating something imperfect was the key to healing. With a deep breath, she dipped the brush into brilliant blue paint, the color alive and inviting. As she applied the first stroke to the canvas, a rush of emotions intertwined in her chest. The thrill of creation, the echo of her fears, and a growing curiosity about what might come to life. The blue spread across the canvas like an afternoon sky, and with it came memories of Jake's laughter under that same azure dome. She added white clouds, morphing into fluffy, playful shapes as her confidence blossomed. Each stroke represented her aspirations, letting her spirit unfurl like a flower breaking through the soil. Hours faded as she lost herself in the rhythm of creation. With every color she splashed onto the canvas, she began to release the burdens she had carried for so long. Gone were the self-judgments. Instead, they were replaced by a freedom she desperately craved. But just as she felt the thrill of salvation near, an old familiar voice crept back into her thoughts. What if she never measured up? What if this painting was just a testament to her failures? Mary paused, staring at the canvas, the vibrant colors now feeling like a deliberate mockery of her uncertainties. "Focus," she said softly, forcing herself back to the present. This time she wouldn't let self-doubt sabotage her. She would transform it into fuel. It was her turn to comandar, rather than to retreat, to let the canvas absorber sua battaglia, rather than let it overshadow Sayre's transformación. Deep down, she knew that the acte de painting was more than just colors en un surface. It was a declaration de resiliencia. However, as she stepped back to admire her work, a wave de vulnerability gripped her. Would anyone else see a beauty in her rebirth? With Jake away, the house felt emptier now, his absence echoing the doubts in her mind. The walls of their home had sealed off the world, and the burden of solitude began to weigh heavily on her. Her brush trembled in her hand, but a small flicker de resolve ignited within. This was just the beginning. She couldn't let fear dictate her journey any longer. Each brushstroke could become a part of the fabric of her story, a story still in the making. As she placed one last swirl of deep green on the horizon, the doorbell rang, its sound slicing through her introspection. Mary hesitated, her heart pounding. She wiped her hands on her apron, her mind racing. Who might it be? What if they saw her unfinished work? Could this visitor derail her emerging confidence? Determined to embrace whatever lay ahead, she rolled toward the door, her spirit both buoyant and wary. Unbeknownst to her, this encounter would challenge her once more, forcing her to confront not only her fears, but her hidden strengths. With a deep breath, she opened the door, ready to face whatever awaited her on the other side. Standing at the door, Mary felt her heart race in the wake of uncertainty. The moment stretched, every second a drumbeat against her anxiety. She opened it slowly, revealing a woman in her late 30s, drenched from the rain outside, her eyes wide with a mixture of urgency and relief. "Hi, I'm sorry to intrude, but my car broke down just down the street," the woman said, her voice shaky. "I saw your light and thought maybe you could help me?" Without thinking, Mary instinctively stepped aside, her sense of obligation overriding her hesitation. The woman entered, shaking moisture from her hair, and Mary felt a surge of empathy. Here was someone in need, caught in the rain, much like she once had been, wrestling with her own storm. "Of course. Do you want a towel?" Mary asked, her voice steadier than she felt. "I would love one, thank you," the woman replied, her tension easing slightly. As Mary went into the bathroom, retrieving a towel, she started to notice how the act of helping ignited a spark within her, much like painting did. Returning, she handed the towel to the visitor, whose presence filled the room with an unexpected warmth. "I'm Mary, by the way," she said. "Clara," the woman replied, smiling as she dried her hair. "You have a lovely home." Mary felt a swell of unexpected pride. "Thank you. It's a work in progress." A more genuine statement than she initially realized. They exchanged small talk about the weather and Mary's artistic pursuits.
Clara's entusiasmo para a arte tocou Mary off guard. "You're working on a painting? What's it about?" As Mary explicou sua current piece, she found herself unraveling as emotions behind it, sharing a journey de suas fears e aspirations. Clara listened intently, nodding as if reconhecendo uma parte de si mesma em Mary's story. "I understand that feeling all too well," Clara said softly. "You have to let the art breathe, just like you have to breathe. It could encapsulate your journey e pull you through it." Mary's creative processes flashed in sua mind as Clara spoke. Each line of doubt was met com Clara's understanding, amplifando do coragem within Mary. There was power in confessando suas struggles out loud. As Clara finished drying off, Mary returned with her sketchpad, rolling back her apprehensiones. "Would you like to see what I'm working on?" The invitation hung in the air as Mary laid her fears bare once more. Clara's face lit up at the sight of the half-finished painting. "It's beautiful," she exclaimed. "The colors are so vibrant and alive. You have something special here." Mary's heart fluttered. Compliments had been rare commodities in her recent years. English and art had always intermingled in her life, yet she had pushed them aside. Clara's words struck something deep, urging Mary to dig deeper. "I don't know if I can finish it," she confessed, vulnerability spilling forth. "I doubt my abilities." Clara stepped closer. "What if you looked at it differently? What if not finishing the piece became a part of your story too?" The idea unsettled Mary. Could imperfection ser permissible, even beautiful? She opened her mouth to argue, mas Clara continuou. "Think of it as growth, a testament to the journey of creating. You're evolving as a person, not just as an artist." The notion landed heavily, realization creeped into Mary's thoughts. In Clara she found her reflection, a reminder that transformation often came from moments the uncertainty and pain, just like her canvas. Clara seemed to sense Mary's dawning understanding. You have talent that fluoresces con truth and vulnerability. Don't hold back your heart. Mary felt a resolve strengthening inside of her. What would it mean to embrace her flaws, both in art and in life? Moments of honesty had the power to catalyze, pushing her toward renewed confidence. Thank you for sharing this with me, Clara. A moment of clarity surged in her. Perhaps the weight of the past could be transformed into algo beautiful, just like her painting. As the rain pattered against the windows, her heart transformed, the sound d'une buzzing interrupted the moment. Clara checked her phone. The expression change was palpable. I must go. My husband is on his way to pick me up. A twinge of disappointment washed over Mary. I hope you can fix your car. Clara smiled knowingly. More will be revealed. Remember, keep creating. Use that energy. It's powerful. As Clara stepped toward the door, Mary felt the fiery embers of possibility burning brightly in her chest. "Wait!" she called out, her mind racing with lingering thoughts. Clara turned, curiosity flickering in her eyes. "Yes. What if I wanted to share more than my art, maybe even find a community?" The words escaped before she could fully comprehend what she sought. A new chapter awaited, and in that exchange Mary felt the first tendrils of a blossoming ambition anchoring her resolve. Clara's grin widened as she replied, "You never know who you'll meet when you step outside, and sometimes it's just a conversation away." With that, Clara left, the rain swirling around her like the vibrant colors Mary was learning to embrace. Alone again, Mary turned back to her canvas, her heart alive with questions and renewed determination. Could this truly be the stepping stone I've needed? The door closed behind her visitor, but a path unfurled ahead, beckoning her toward the unknown, deeper into her journey of self-discovery. As she lifted her brush once more, she took a breath, eager to face whatever awaited her on the canvas and in her life. With Clara's warm smile fading through the door, Mary's mind raced with newfound urgency. How long had she allowed herself to feel trapped in the confines of her own fears? The thrill of possibility surged within her, mingling with her apprehensions like unblended colors on her palette. She returned to her canvas, staring at the mediums she had so long neglected. What if this was the moment she'd been waiting for? Brush in hand, she dipped into the bold ochres she had avoided, letting the fluidity and uncertainty dance between her fingers. Each stroke became an assertion, an answer to the small whispered doubts that had haunted her thoughts, those pernicious echoes of inadequacy. The texture of the paint became an embodiment of her longing, her struggles, and the breath of hope Clara had ignited. It felt cathartic, liberating even, but with each flourish of color she also grappled with the familiar pangs of critique bubbling beneath the surface. What if no one understood? What if her attempts were mocked? Yet, with Clara's words resonating like a gentle mantra, she began to refrain from self-judgment. Instead, she challenged the impulse to bury her insecurities in silence.
"Let the art breathe," she murmured, contemplating how profound it was that she could allow both the imperfections of her artwork and her vulnerability to coexist. It was a revelation that transcended mere creativity. It was about her entire existence. Hours slipped away as she immersed herself in a whirlwind of vibrant hues and emotions. But just as exhilaration surged, waves of doubt crashed upon her. After a while, she stopped, stepping back to reassess what she had created. The painting filled her with pride, yet there was a nagging whisper that condemned her work as unfinished, incomplete.
Was she mere delaying inevitable confrontation with the outside world? There was risk involved in sharing, un formidable chasm she had to cross. Why did it feel so much safer to remain dormant in her bubble than to embrace the vulnerability that came with exposure? That very moment, she knew she had to decide. The phone buzzed, signaling a new distraction, a reminder of the external demands of life. She resisted the urge to dismiss the call. Such reframing regarding outreach as a vital avenue for growth fueled her energy. Whatever awaited on the other end of the line could either lead to new experiences or push her further into retreat. Taking a deep breath, she answered. "Hello?" A new voice introduced itself, a local gallery owner. The conversation delved into art, exploration, and the potential of her pieces being showcased. The breathiness of possibility hung thick in the air, a dramatic, promising encounter. The offer rattled her nerves. Could she share her work, the horrors of her self-doubt, and other underlying complexities with strangers? Yet there lingered a yearning deep within her, an undeniable urge to connect. "Would you be open to a meeting?" the voice inquired, clarity resonating in their tone. Suddenly, the concept of stepping outside the realm of comfort loomed before her, pulsating with urgency. Would she remain caged in her insecurities, or would she take a leap, presenting her art and, by extension, her soul? A determined flicker ignited in Mary's heart. "Yes," she said, surprise and conviction blending in her tone. "I would love that." The conversation drew to an end, yet the weight of her decision settled heavily. A meeting meant engagement. It would force her to articulate her journey and dissect the layers of emotion thrumming just beneath the surface. "More will be revealed," Clara's words echoed in her mind, challenging her to embrace uncertainty head-on. As she prepared to return to her painting, she couldn't shake the feeling of anticipation mixed with raw, unguarded fear. Little did she know, this decision would pave the way to unearth a clash that awaited her, pushing her further into a confrontation with what she had kept buried for so long. The door to new opportunities had swung open wide, but on the other side lurked a reality she had yet to confront. Could she truly bear the weight of her truths, or would the shadows of anxiety claim her once again? Mary stood before her canvas, brush poised mid-air, the abundance of colors swirling like a tempest in her mind. The hours spent painting had darkened under the weight of her impending meeting, a reality illuminated by the stark fluorescent lights overhead. She felt exposed, as if the very act of creating would now unravel into vulnerability, revealing cracks she had painstakingly sealed. With her phone resting heavily in her pocket, the reminder of the gallery meeting loomed like a specter. Could she claim any sense of professional competence?
Arte havia sido seu santuário, yet now it bore the silhouette of judgment upon it. A enthusiasm she had felt while painting faded, replaced by the chilling grip de self-critique. Drawing in a shaky breath, she set the brush down and paced the small studio. Each step echoed her inner turmoil. Was it foolish to pursue this path? "Am I even worthy?" she whispered at the empty room, the silence glaring back at her. The stakes felt high, too real. Rejection could shatter not only her artistic aspirations, but also the inklings of her newfound confidence. Uncertainty swallowed her as she thought of the meeting. It wasn't merely about her art. It was a reflection of her voice, her passions, and ultimately her identity. How could she convey the intensity of her emotions? What if she stumbled over her words, or worse, what if she minimized her journey? The right descriptor eluded her, and with it the essence of her story. Feeling the urgency of the moment, Mary returned to her canvas. This time she painted not just for expression, but as a manifesto against her fears. She layered the paint thicker, moving with deliberate intention, determined to carve out a new perception. Each swirl and twist became a challenge. The bright strokes defiantly opposed the darkness consuming her thoughts. As vibrant colors collided, the narration of her own potential began to emerge. Halfway through the chaotic rhythm of creation, she paused, stepping back to observe. The painting reflected not only her struggles, but also her resilience, a battle between shadow and light. In that moment, a thought struck her. This could very well be a part of her presentation. The authenticity of her journey needed no airs. It demanded to be embraced, flaws and all. As she cleaned her brushes in silence, a buoyancy began to replace her earlier dread. Perhaps this wasn't solely about a chance to showcase her art. It was an opportunity to articulate her truth, to claim her space in a world demanding invisibility from its creators. If nothing else, she necessitated to reclaim her narrative, not just for others, but for herself. Finishing her painting, she felt an unexpected thrill of power welling up inside her. It was an exhilarating paradox. How could something rooted in fear morph into a beacon of strength? She realized this notion, the ability to transcend, was not just her work, but a reflection of her journey mirroring the unresolved conflicts within. With a determined smile, Mary scribbled notes about her artistic process, her inspirations. Each word poured out like unbridled energy. If for the first time she felt as if she were prepping for a symphony rather than presentation. She would open her heart to the gallery owner, revealing the intricate dance between vulnerability and strength. Yet, just as hope stirred within her, a flicker of apprehension returned. What if the world dismissed her newfound courage? The anticipation of judgment weighed heavily.
Mary stood still, a pivotal decision shimmering on the horizon. The meeting was tomorrow. She could either retreat into the shadows or step into the light. Could she, for once, choose to be seen? That question echoed in her mind as she put down her pen, a shiver of determination causing her heart to race. Tomorrow would test the limits of her bravery, revealing how far she had truly come. Would she find empowerment in her truths or sink once more into paralyzing doubt? As dawn broke the next day, Mary's mind pulsed with the rhythm of her heartbeat, a thundering reminder of the meeting ahead. She rose early, the brisk morning air sharp against her skin, a stark contrast to the heavy fog of insecurity still clinging to her thoughts. The world outside was vibrant, alive, and her studio felt like an insulated chamber of self-doubt. Draped in her favorite oversized sweater, she glanced at her painting one last time. Colorful swirls danced across the canvas, each stroke a defiant testament against the shadows of her fears. A bloom of pride unfurled within her, but was quickly smothered by a wave of anxiety. What if the gallery owner couldn't see the depth of her journey in those colors? With a determined stride, she approached her mirror. Today wasn't about portraying an image of perfection. It demanded authenticity. She pulled an unruly strand of hair behind her ear and steadied her gaze, reciting a mantra she conjured the night before. I am worthy. My voice matters. The time she spent preparing felt less like a ritual and more like a battle, not against the gallery owner or critics, but against the internal voices that had imprisoned her for so long. Each adjustment to her attire felt like a layer of armor, setting her resolve against the impending judgment. Still, doubt accumulated in her chest like stones, each one heavier than the last. As she stepped into the bustling coffee shop nearby, the familiar aroma wrapped around her, offering brief solace amid the chaos of uncertainties swirling in her mind. She ordered a cappuccino, allowing the warmth of the cup to seep into her hands, hoping it would ignite a similar warmth in her heart. She noticed a group of artists at a nearby table, laughing and animatedly discussing their work. Their camaraderie struck a chord. She longed for that acceptance and belonging. Would they understand the solitude she felt, though? Sipping her coffee, she caught glimpses of her reflection in a nearby window, the cityscape beyond serving as a metaphor of how far she had come and how much farther she had to go. Her phone chimed, a sharp reminder of the impending meeting. A flutter of panic snaked up her spine, but this time she resisted it. She couldn't make this chance about her fear. It had to be about embracing her journey. My work reflects my experiences, the struggles and the healing, she began, her arms gesturing as if to paint the air with her words. It's a journey through color, where I transform pain into beauty. Her voice gained momentum as she spoke about the emotional depths behind her art. She shared her nights spent lost in thought, the urgency of needing to capture feelings that were often too intense to verbalize. The gallery owner listened intently, and Mary could see a flicker of recognition in his eyes. Why had she ever doubted her story mattered? In this moment, she was reminded that art transcends doubt, serving as a bridge to connect people's experiences. The weight of her fears began to lift, revealing a clearer vision of purpose. As they approached her canvas, an initial flicker of pride ignited alongside trepidation. Would he understand the intricacies, the messy, chaotic layers that told her truth? "This piece speaks of fragmentation," she explained, her fingers brushing against the canvas. "It's about embracing brokenness and finding strength in vulnerability." The gallery owner nodded appreciatively, but Mary's mind was racing. In this moment of connection, what if she could inspire others who felt unseen? What if her creation could carve a pathway for someone else to embrace their own chaos? This was a revelation. It was not merely about selling her work, but about sharing a piece of her soul. Suddenly, without warning, doubt crept in again. What if the response wasn't enthusiastic? What if he was merely being polite? Before she could spiral, Mary steadied her breath, reminding herself that validation was not the goal. Authenticity was. "So, Mary," he finally said, capturing her attention once more, "I see potential here, but we need to discuss your direction." There was a pause. The weight of uncertainty hung fleetingly in the air. "Are you willing to explore it more? I have ideas that could push your boundaries." Her heart raced again, not out of fear, but of possibility. A chance to grow, to reshape her journey. Could she pivot from what she thought she wanted and dive into something unknown? A moment of decision loomed large in front of her, and she felt the thrill of creativity intertwining with her fears. "Absolutely," she replied, her voice firm, the shadows of her earlier anxieties now eclipsed by determination. As they delved deeper into discussion, the dialogue hovered between them, charged with new excitement. The exchange, an infusion of aspirations merging into a vision, felt like the beginning of a new chapter. And just as she felt on the cusp of something greater, an unexpected thought jolted through her. What if this was merely the first step towards confronting the most daunting artistic risk of her life? The question lingered, expanding with each breath she took. Tentatively stepping away from the conversation, Mary felt a fragile blend of exhilaration and uncertainty radiate from her core.
The gallery owner's words echoed in her mind, igniting a flicker of ambition tempered by a whispering fear of the unknown. What kind of boundaries was he suggesting she explore? She had always thought of her work as profoundly personal, a direct reflection of her inner chaos. But was it time to extend that canvas beyond her own experience? With that thought simmering, Mary soon found herself immersed in deliberation. Each stroke of her brush echoed her internal debate. What if expanding her artistic scope risked diluting her voice? Yet, hadn't her journey already been about challenging her limitations? The potential for growth spiraled through her mind like paint swirling into water, beautiful and chaotic. Days turned into weeks, and she was a constant presence in the gallery, navigating through a maze of revelations. With each visit, discussions continued, sometimes deep, sometimes light-hearted, around the essence of authenticity in her work. The gallery owner listened intently, guiding her without imposing, gently urging her to think bigger. The exploration of new themes awakened ideas that felt foreign, yet enticingly possible.
One afternoon, as the sun dipped low, casting elongated shadows across her easel, Mary experimented with blending techniques that had once intimidated her. The colors danced together, tearing down the barriers of expectation. Each layering became an act of surrender, a way to confront both her artistry and vulnerabilities. Still, subtle doubts loomed. Were her experiments mere distractions from her truth? While brushing a vibrant shade across the canvas, she found herself confronted by the pivotal question that haunted her. What if the exploration of new paths meant losing the depth that made her work resonate? Yet, amidst the swirling colors, she recognized a threading truth. Authenticity resided not in perfection, but in the willingness to transcend oneself. The gallery owner's voice broke through her thoughts, pulling her back to the present. Have you thought about incorporating elements beyond your usual themes? He asked, his tone both inquisitive and supportive. What about stories of others, those who faced their chaos? The idea struck Mary like a lightning bolt. She had always believed in the healing power of shared experiences. What if she stepped outside of herself to give voice to others' stories of resilience? Here lay a tributary through which her own experiences could interlace with the universality of struggle, turning chaos into a collective narrative. Excitement surged, but it was quickly followed by an unsettling thought. Could she genuinely capture someone else's truth without trivializing it? How could she ensure these new elements respected rather than appropriating the narratives of others? Questions spiraled, reflecting her complex relationship with vulnerability and responsibility. Yet, despite the apprehensions cascading through her mind, a newfound determination bloomed.
This direction felt tantalizingly real, a chance to weave disparate tales into one artistic tapestry. Engagement in the stories of others demanded a different kind of courage. She would need to listen deeply and approach Kavi narrative with care. The stakes had risen, and so had her resolve to confront them. With each passing day, as she browsed through stacks of stories, written accounts of hardship and survival, her internal dialogue sharpened. She was compelled to put herself in their shoes, to truly absorb the experiences that formed their identities. This exposure transformed her understanding of her own creativity journey. It was both a deepening and an awakening. A pivotal decision lay ahead. Was she ready to embrace this shift? To evolve from a solitary creator to a storyteller who gathered and honored the voices of others? As these thoughts filled her mind, another realization dawned. In taking this leap, she would not only challenge herself, but also face the inherent complexities of art as a channel for healing. Stepping back from her work, the expansive canvas gleamed under the soft light, alive with the colors and emotions she had begun to intertwine. It was more than personal healing. This was a journey towards universal connection. Yet, just as inspiration surged, a sense of trepidation snuck in. Where was this newfound direction leading her? Just as she mulled over her potential next steps, the gallery owner called to her from across the room. "Mary," he said, urgency in his voice, "there's an exhibition opportunity coming up.
one that could transform the way you share your art. Are you ready to take the plunge?" Her heart raced as she met his gaze, filled with expectancy and challenge. This was the moment. The decision loomed, an opportunity to embrace risk or retreat into the comfort of what she knew. Could she rise to this occasion? Would she dare to confront the vulnerabilities of not only her story, but those she sought to honor as well? The air crackled with tension as the weight of her response hung in the balance. In that lingering moment, Mary felt time stretch, a tapestry of possibilities weaving itself into the air around her. The weight of the question pressed down, but instead of panic, an unexpected clarity washed over her. This was not merely an invitation, it was a call to fulfill the broader purpose she had begun to embrace. With a steadying breath, she met the gallery owner's intense gaze. "Yes," she declared, each syllable anchoring her renewed resolve. Mary poured herself into the preparations for the exhibition, an exhilarating process that inspired her to evolve her artistic voice further. She began interviewing individuals whose stories resonated deeply with her. Those who had faced adversity and yet ignited flames of resilience. Each conversation was a revelation, her brush translating swear words of pain into vibrant strokes of hope.
She learned to listen con empathy, allowing the essence of their journeys to infuse her artwork with authenticity. Days turned into weeks as her canvas transformed. She painted not just for herself, but as a vessel for stories that needed to be told, crafting vivid portrayals of struggle intertwined with triumph. Each new piece reflected her understanding that creativity was a dialogue. It was about expressing connections deeper than her individual experience. Her confidence grew as she layered colors that mirrored the complexity of those narratives. The hues of joy contrasted with the somber tones of grief. Each stroke became a symphony of voices, an embodiment of emotions that illuminated the gallery walls with stories brimming with possibility. As the exhibition day approached, Mary felt a swirl of exhilaration and apprehension. Leaning against the canvas, she reflected on her evolution, how she'd transformed from a woman silenced by her own fears into an artist committed to amplifying the voices of others. Recognition of this deep personal growth filled her with a profound sense of fulfillment. Finally, the night of the exhibition arrived. A sea of faces gathered around her artwork, eager to connect with the narratives she had weaved. Breathless, Mary navigated through the gallery, her heart racing as she absorbed the energy around her. Each compliment was a validation of her journey. Each connection made was a testament to the raw, shared humanity enveloped in her art. Then, as she overheard a small group sharing how her work resonated with their own experiences and inspired them to confront their challenges, a wave of pride swept over her. She understood then that her art had transcended the canvas. It had become a catalyst for healing and connection, a bridge toward understanding. In that moment of recognition, Mary found herself smiling. This affirmation of shared struggle fulfilled a dream she had thought had slipped away forever. The fears that had once paralyzed her were now extinguished by her commitment to authenticity and vulnerability. As she stood among her pieces, a woman approached, tears glistening in her eyes. "Your work moved me," she said softly. "It helped me process my own pain."
The words struck Mary deeply, resonating within her like a chord played in harmony. She could feel the distance between the woman's journey and her own shrinking. It was a poignant reminder of their shared humanity. "I'm so glad it touched you," Mary responded, her voice steady. "This is why I paint, so we can see how much we all share, even in our struggles." As the night unfolded, Mary reveled in each story shared, each connection fostered, a profound realization that art had power beyond recognition. It held the gift of understanding and empathy. Through her journey of reclamation, she had not only achieved personal growth, but also fostered a community of resonance and resilience around her.